The assassin. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest.
What up, y'all? You're listening to Sports Talk with Tropp, and I'm your host, Katie Tropp. Well, shit, let's get right into it, because we had some breaking news yesterday. Steve Nash was fired as the coach of the Brooklyn Nets yesterday. Not really shocking there. I kind of was actually surprised he came into the season still as the coach. I really don't think it matters who was their coach in Brooklyn, because they don't have a good nucleus of players who even really give a shit beyond Kevin Durant. So he was kind of fucked regardless. But I actually questioned the hiring of Steve Nash to begin with, just because he had no coaching experience at all, as a bench coach at all. Like, of course, you're always going to have coaches be first-time coaches and never have experience. But for the most part, they usually have some type of bench experience and have kind of come up in the league as a bench coach or a defensive coach at some point in the league, and then they become the head coach. And Steve Nash, he became the coach like right after he retired. So that was kind of weird, because it also came out of nowhere. But I just could see where this was going from about last year, midway point. You could tell that the team, especially Kyrie Irving, did not respect him at all. There's just a bunch of stupid stories about how Kyrie was just very disrespectful towards him in many ways, including one story where apparently this summer, Steve Nash went over to Kyrie Irving's house just to have a conversation with him. And Kyrie Irving made him wait outside for like 30 minutes before he would answer the door. So that's some narcissistic bullshit right there. So that just goes to show you what kind of a scumbag Kyrie Irving is. But Steve Nash, I don't really think he did a good job as a coach there anyways. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a shot somewhere else, but he might want to kind of do what, because this kind of reminds me of Jason Kidd. When Jason Kidd was first hired many years ago, I think he was was it the Grizzlies or the Bucks? I think it was the Bucks actually, who they just hired him out of nowhere. And he did a decent job, but then he just ended up getting fired, and then he would eventually just kind of make his way through kind of being a bench coach for a while, and then he became head coach again. And so I kind of feel like that's what Steve Nash needs to do, is he just kind of needs to be a bench coach for a little bit and then work his way into head coaching. But like I said, he was damned if he was damned no matter what was going to happen, just because this situation, this team doesn't have a lot of committed players. Like I said, the only committed player on the Nets right now, I would say, is Kevin Durant. Other than that, Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons are just both two players who you question if they even give a shit about basketball. And then the rest of their team is old journeymen. So, yeah, it doesn't matter who the Brooklyn Nets hire after this. It's said that they're actually going after Ime Udoka, the suspended coach for the Celtics, which I guess that's fine. Go after him. He did wonders with the Celtics, but that's because they actually had a good committed team. Him going to the Nets, I think, is going to be a completely different ball of wax here, just because Kyrie Irving obviously doesn't respect anybody. Kyrie Irving has issues every single place he has ever gone. So I don't see things changing with the Nets until they part ways with Irving, just because he's obviously a dude who gives zero fucks about basketball and just cares most about being an asshole. But first firing of the NBA season right off the bat. Steve Nash, no longer the Brooklyn Nets coach. So let's get right into the football side of things here. And the Monday Night Football game ended up being the exact opposite of what I expected. I expected the Cincinnati Bengals actually to kick the shit out of the Cleveland Browns, and it turned out the Cleveland Browns would kick the shit out of the Bengals. The Browns ended up winning 32-13, And it really was just once the Browns started to get going offensively, especially because defensively they actually started out really solid right off the gate. Myles Garrett was having a great game, and they were giving Joe Burrow issues. And then the offense finally started to get it going. Nick Chubb had a phenomenal game. He had 3 touchdowns on the game. So just overall, the Browns had a really solid game. And the Bengals did not look good at all. They had their same issues that they have, that is their offensive line. And if they can't block for Joe Burrow, then he can't get the ball off. And it doesn't matter who the receiver is. He doesn't have enough time to get them to get a pass off. So it was a very poor showing by the Bengals, but a very solid showing by the Browns. So let's get into my top 10 NFL power rankings for Week 8. This week at number 1 remains the stupid-ass Philadelphia Eagles. They're still undefeated, 7-0 on the season. They just kicked the shit out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Jalen Hurts just continues his reign of terror. He has 1,799 yards through the air passing, 10 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. So he's very efficient with 303 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground as well. So he's got 16 total touchdowns on the season and only 2 interceptions. So he's just very efficient, and he just is having a great season. Miles Sanders, their running back, has 563 yards and 5 touchdowns on the season. Also, their defense is really getting it done. Just the Eagles are an overall great team right now. And at this current point in time, I can't remove them from the number 1 position, unfortunately. Then at number 2 on my top 10 NFL power rankings, I have the Buffalo Bills. Overall record of 6-1. This past week, they just kicked the crap out of the Green Bay Packers. Josh Allen is just continuing his phenomenal season with 2,198 yards on the season, 19 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Stephon Diggs, he's making a case for Offensive Player of the Year at this point. He's got 764 yards on the season with 7 touchdowns, which is tied for the league lead in touchdowns with Travis Kelce. And then Jordan Poyer, their safety, he leads the league with 4 interceptions as well. So the Bills' defense is taking care of business just like the Bills' offense. They do have their questions in the second half of games, but really they did trade for Nyheim Hines as well, the running back from the Colts. So I think that just bolsters their ground attack, which is what they really needed to do. So I feel like the Bills only got better at the trade deadline. Then at number 3 on my top 10 NFL power rankings, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Overall record of 5-2. They're coming off of a bye week this week. And Patrick Mahomes still leads the league in touchdowns with 20 touchdowns, even though he just sat pretty this week. Just got ready for their next opponent, the Tennessee Titans. Travis Kelce, like I said, he's tied for the league in touchdowns with 7 touchdowns with Stephon Diggs. So the Chiefs sitting pretty at 3. Then at number 4 on my top 10 NFL power rankings, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Overall record of 6-1 this past week. They beat the Arizona Cardinals, and they're really just having a very solid season. Overall, this offense is pretty much unstoppable. They could score at will. Kirk Cousins is having a very efficient season as well. He's got 1,734 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions on the season. But the big surprise really is Zadarius Smith, their free agent pickup in the offseason on defense. He is really killing it right now. He's got 7.5 sacks on the season, which I believe is like 4th. He's only behind Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, and what's his face in New England. Goddamn, I'm drawing a blank on his name in New England, but he plays for the Patriots. He leads the league with 8.5 sacks right now. But you got Zadarius Smith, who's just having a great year, and he's really holding it down for this Minnesota Vikings defense. So I've got the Vikings at 4. Then at number 5 on my top 10 NFL power rankings, I have got my Dallas Cowboys. Overall record of 6-2. Just kicked the crap out of the Chicago Bears. Had a really good week that I really wanted to see from the offense. But the defense is really leading the way right now. The Dallas defense actually leads the league with 33 overall sacks. Micah Parsons has 8 of those sacks, which puts him at 2nd in the league, tied with Nick Bosa. And then you also have Trayvon Diggs. He's got 3 interceptions on the season, and it's really funny because I could tell that he really heard all the shit talking about him this offseason, how people were talking about he gets blown up when you go deep on him. And really, I got to say, he's really locked it down this season. It's not only getting the interceptions, but he's actually getting tipped passes. And he's not getting beat in coverage as bad as he usually has. You could tell he's worked on that issue, and he continues to get better as the season goes. And this Dallas defense is just getting stronger as the season goes, and I'm loving what I'm seeing from them. Then at number 6 on my top 10 NFL power rankings, I've got the Baltimore Ravens, overall record of 5-3. This past week, they just beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this team is really just led by Lamar Jackson. He's just having just a great season. He's got 1,635 yards through the air, 15 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. But a big player that you're not really hearing about, but who's making the most noise on the defensive side of things, is Lamar Houston. He's kind of been a journeyman around the league and over the years, and he's got 6 sacks on the season. It's really been a nightmare for pretty much every quarterback that the Ravens have faced this year. So I've got the Ravens at 6. Then at number 7 on my top 10 NFL power rankings, I've got the Tennessee Titans, overall record of 5-2. This past week, they just beat the Houston Texans, and it's really just the Derrick Henry show with the Titans once again. He's got 755 yards and 7 touchdowns on the season. He's right up there with Stephon Diggs for Offensive Player of the Year, of course. I don't know if Henry's going to be enough. I think he's going to be enough for the Titans to win this division, but we'll see what happens come playoff time if he's going to be enough to get them some playoff wins, because right now, other than Derrick Henry, the Titans are pretty weak, especially on the offensive side of things. The defense isn't even that great either. So we'll see how the rest of the Titans season turns out, but so far, so good for Derrick Henry. Then at number 8 on my top 10 NFL power rankings, I have the Miami Dolphins, overall record of 5-3. They just beat the Detroit Lions. And Tua Tagovailoa, he's had a really solid season so far. He's got 1,678 yards, 12 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions on the season. So he's very, very efficient, very low on those interceptions. And then you've got Tyreek Hill with 2 touchdowns, 961 yards, and then you got Jalen Waddle with 5 touchdowns as well. So he has his pick of the litter when it comes to the weapons on the offensive side of things. And then they did just trade for Bradley Chubb as well, so we'll see if that improves their defense. It's definitely going to improve them for the long run, but we'll see what happens if he makes an immediate impact or whatnot. But right now, the Dolphins are looking pretty solid. Then at number 9 on my top 10 NFL power rankings, I've got the Seattle Seahawks, overall record of 5-3. They just beat the New York Giants this week. And it's really just Geno Smith is just having a phenomenal season. He's just making some great passes and some deep passes and just making very smart moves with the football. He's got 1,924 yards on the season, 13 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That's you also got to credit the Seahawks defense as well. They're really getting the job done, and they're just playing overall great team ball. We'll see how much longer this is able to last for the Seahawks. I still don't really believe in them, but hey, they're leading their division right now. But I think the team that's rounding out my top 10 is probably going to overtake them at some point, and that would be the San Francisco 49ers. Overall record of 4-4. This week they just smashed the Rams, and they're such a good team. And like I said, it's going to be really interesting to see how good they are once they get Deebo Samuel back. Him and McCaffrey are really going to be very difficult to contain. Then you also have Kittle, who really hasn't done much this season, but we all know what he's capable of. And then you also have, what's his name? The other receiver. God, I'm drawing a blank on him as well. But their second receiver, I think he's really starting to get it going as well. So, I mean, then you also take a look at the defensive side of things. First of all, the Niners defense has 26 total sacks on the season. That's only second to my Dallas Cowboys. And Joey Bosa has 8 of those sacks, tied with Micah Parsons for second in the league with sacks. So the 49ers, like, they're offensively just really good, defensively great, and then the coaching side of things, they're really doing things really well. So I kind of feel like at some point the 49ers are going to overtake the Seahawks for the division lead. But right now, the Seahawks are actually leading the NFC West, which is just weird. And I can't believe they're actually anywhere in my top 10 for 2 weeks in a row. So very, very interesting football season, to say the least. That's for damn sure. And then getting into week 9, Thursday night football matchup tomorrow is going to be a snooze fest because it's the Philadelphia Eagles, the best team in the league, playing the Houston Texans, the worst team in the league. Right now, the Eagles are a 13.5-point favorite. And I don't think you really need to break down this game. I think Philly's going to roll right in there. Jalen Hurts is actually from Houston. So this is kind of like a homecoming game for him. So I have a feeling he's probably going to be feeling himself. And if his season wasn't already looking solid right now, it's probably going to get even better tomorrow. So I just see this game going as expected. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to roll over the Houston Texans 38-10. So they will still be undefeated, at least according to my prediction. Hey, it would be hilarious to actually see them lose to the Texans, but I don't think that's going to be happening. But it's going to be very interesting because that game is going to be coinciding with the World Series, and that's going to be the Philadelphia Phillies versus the Houston Astros, of course. So both Philly and Houston playing each other, except they will be in Philadelphia as opposed to Houston, like the football game. So I imagine more people will be watching the baseball game because A, that's the World Series, and B, that's probably going to be much more interesting because the Texans will probably not show up. All right, moving on to college football. This is the first week where we actually have playoff rankings. So the top 10 this week are the actual teams who are in contention for the playoffs. Of course, the top 4 right now are the actual playoff teams at this current point in time, but shit's about to get shaken up, probably starting this week. So let's get it started with the number 1 team, the Tennessee Volunteers. Did not see this coming. They are 8-0. They smashed Kentucky 44-6. As I said, and I still believe this, I think Ohio State should be the number 1 team. But hey, it's really hard to argue against Tennessee since they are having a phenomenal season. But they are the number 1 overall team right now. But they do go to Georgia, number 3 Georgia, so this week. So one of those 2 teams is a losing this week. So we'll see who it's going to be. I'm leaning towards Georgia in this one just because they're at home. But Tennessee is playing great football, so we'll see what happens. But they are the number 1 team right now. Then at number 2 is Ohio State. They're 8-0. They just beat Penn State this weekend, 44-31. It was a close game to start, but then Ohio State just ran away with that one. And they will be at Northwestern this weekend. Then at number 3, as I said, that's Georgia. They are 8-0. They just smashed Florida this past weekend, 42-20, and they will be playing Tennessee, number 1 Tennessee this week. So like I said, one of those teams is a losing this week. So one of those teams will more than likely be falling out of this top 4 position here. Then at number 4, rounding out the playoff teams, is Clemson. They are 8-0 on the season. They just got by Syracuse 27-21, and they will be at Notre Dame this weekend. Then at number 5, we've got Michigan, who kicked the crap out of Michigan State this weekend, 29-7. So they are 8-0 on the season, and they will be at Rutgers this weekend. Then at number 6, you have Alabama, 7-1 on the season. They just beat Mississippi State 30-6. They will be at number 10 LSU this weekend. So that's going to be a very, very interesting game. I would not be surprised to see LSU get the upset in that one, but it's still Alabama, and you can't ever count them out of anything. But that's going to be a fun game to watch. Then at number 7, you've got TCU. They're 8-0. They just beat West Virginia 41-31, and they have Texas Tech this weekend. Then at number 8, Oregon, 7-1 on the season. They just beat Cal 42-24. They are at Colorado this weekend. Then at number 9, you've got USC. They are 7-1 on the season. They just beat Arizona 45-37, and they will be playing Cal this weekend. And then rounding out the top 10, LSU. They are 6-2 on the season. They just beat Mississippi 45-20, and they get number 6, Alabama, this week. So we have definitely, for sure, 2 very interesting games that definitely have some playoff implications, but it's nice to see that finally college football is going to be getting very competitive, and we're going to see these rankings get messed up over the next couple of weeks leading up to the national championship. And then rounding out today's episode, we had World Series Game 3 last night. And it didn't look like the Astros were aware that there was a game last night because the Philadelphia Phillies smashed them 7-0. As a matter of fact, the Phillies tied a World Series record for hitting 5 home runs in one game. They also hit all 5 of those home runs off of Lance McCullers, who is the first pitcher to ever have 5 home runs hit off of him in a World Series, which is crazy. Just because Lance McCullers has actually had a very solid season. Overall, the Houston Astros starting pitching has been the best in the league. But so far, the Phillies have been able to take advantage and have been hitting nothing but home runs off of them. As a matter of fact, McCullers only this season gave up 4 total home runs in the regular season, and he gave up 5 in last night's game. So that was just crazy to see. So far, as a matter of fact, the Phillies have 17 home runs at home in this postseason. So they're just really getting at it offensively. They are not intimidated at all. That's actually something I said last week about the Phillies, is that I really hope the Astros don't overlook them, because I really made some comparisons to the Phillies to the Giants. I want to say it was the 2012 season. It might have been the 2014 season. I always get the 2 of them messed up, but there was this one year where the Giants were not looking really good the first half of the season. Then they were able to put it together the second half of the season, and they just barely slid into the playoffs. As a matter of fact, I think they won the division like the last game of the season over the Dodgers, and then they ended up making the playoffs, making this incredible run, and it was because they put together this solid second half. And when you roll into the playoffs feeling yourself and you're just looking real good, it doesn't matter if the other team on paper is better than you, because you're that confidence and just that style of play, it's palpable, and it just continues on. And so with the Phillies, I'm not surprised. Like, I did pick the Astros, and I did pick the Astros in 5. So I really didn't have a lot of respect for the Phillies, but I'm not shocked by what they're doing right now, just because of the way they came into the playoffs, came in hot. They beat some really good teams. I mean, you beat the Braves and they beat the Dodgers. No, they didn't beat the Dodgers. They beat the Braves and Jesus Christ, I can't remember who they just beat in the NLCS. But regardless, they beat good teams all the way into the playoffs. And they're just continuing on now. And while I still think the Astros have a great chance of coming back and not getting swept out the rest of the series, they really need to watch out, because the Phillies didn't even have their best pitching out there last night. And Suarez ended up going, I believe, 7 innings. And so they didn't even the Phillies didn't even have to really use much of their bullpen. So if they get into dire straits either tonight or tomorrow, and they really need to use their bullpen, they won't have any issues, because Suarez pitched such a nice game last night. And it was just crazy to see, because the Astros weren't able to get anything going offensively, and their pitching has really let them down, other than Valdez. But we'll see what happens. We've got Game 4 that should be starting here in about 45 minutes, and then we have Game 5 tomorrow. So the World Series could be over by Friday's show. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I do think the Astros are going to at least get one more of these games in Philadelphia. But it's not looking good for them, because the Phillies look damn good, and they don't look intimidated, and they're really coming into the playoffs hot, and the Astros better watch themselves. They might need to start banging some trash cans like they did back in 2017 to get that World Series, because right now it's not looking too good for them. But there's still a lot of series to go. So we'll see what happens these next couple of days. And I will talk to you fools on Friday.